Today, we're diving into the most complex, most fascinating, and honestly, the most human part of our brain. We're talking about the command center, the grand orchestrator, basically the CEO that's running your entire life from inside your head. So let's get into it.
Just think about it for a minute. What is it exactly that lets you weigh the pros and cons of a huge life decision? Or feel empathy for a friend who's having a tough time? Or even just figure out what you're going to do this weekend? It's not some kind of magic. It's biology.
And there it is, this beautiful, complicated area right at the very front of your brain, the part you see highlighted here in red. That's the prefrontal cortex. Think of it like the biological hardware that's running the software of, well, you. Okay, so if we're going to call it the CEO, we should probably figure out what exactly it is and, what's on its job description. So anatomically, the definition is pretty straightforward. It's the chunk of brain at the very, very front of your frontal lobes. But its location, that's everything. It's perfectly positioned to get information from almost every other part of the brain, which lets it pull everything together to make those high-level calls.
And its to-do list, it's just staggering. This is the part of you that actually plans things out and makes those tough calls. We call that executive function. It's also your mental scratch pad, your working memory. It's what helps you navigate tricky social situations, keep your impulses in check, and actually focus on one thing at a time. Basically, it handles almost everything that makes you who you are.
So how in the world does a piece of machinery this complex even get built? Well, it all starts from a surprisingly simple blueprint, really, really early in our development.
It's honestly incredible when you think about it. Just 3 weeks after conception, a layer of cells, the ectoderm, starts to thicken up. By week 4, it literally folds in on itself and makes this thing called the neural tube, which is the precursor to your entire nervous system. The very front end of that tube then just balloons out to become the brain, with our CEO, the prefrontal cortex, developing right at the very tip.
Now, you can imagine a CEO's office this busy is incredibly energy hungry. It needs a constant, totally reliable supply of power and plumbing just to keep the lights on and keep those decisions flowing.
All that power comes from blood, and it's delivered by two main pipelines. You've got the anterior cerebral arteries, or ACA, which take care of the top and middle parts. And then you have the middle cerebral arteries, the MCA, which handle the sides. Any disruption to either one of these, well, that's really serious trouble. It's like cutting the power to headquarters.
And here's a cool little detail. Just like you're right or left-handed, your brain has a dominant side too. For the vast majority of people, we're talking 95% of right-handers and most left-handers, it's the left hemisphere that's really in charge of language. And that includes, of course, the left prefrontal cortex. So, what happens when this incredible system starts to break down? Because when the CEO gets sick, believe me, the entire company feels it.
And the consequences, they can be absolutely devastating. Just look at this number. It's startling. Frontotemporal dementia, a disease that specifically attacks this part of the brain, is the second most common cause of dementia in people under 65. This is not just a disease of old age.
And if you look at these symptoms, they're like a mirror image of the CEO's job description we just talked about. When the prefrontal cortex starts to go, that executive function, your ability to plan and decide, it just crumbles. Social disinhibition means the brain's filter just disappears. People say and do things completely out of character. Apathy drains all motivation. Your entire personality can change. Every single symptom is a job the CEO just can't do anymore.
And it's not just these degenerative diseases. A stroke that blocks one of those main arteries we mentioned earlier, the ACA or MCA, can cause sudden catastrophic damage, and it leads to very similar problems with personality and behavior. So, the bottom line is the physical health of this tissue is absolutely everything.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Modern science has given us this incredible window that lets us see the brain and our CEO at work in real time.
This is functional MRI, or fMRI. And it's so cool because it doesn't just take a static picture. It actually tracks blood flow, which tells us where all the action is happening in the brain. It lets scientists map out exactly which parts light up when we think or feel or experience something complex, like pain. And this just shows that network in action perfectly. Those bright yellow and red spots, that's heightened activity in a brain that's responding to something painful. And look, you can see it so clearly. Parts of the prefrontal cortex are lighting up. They're actively working to process and deal with that pain. We are literally watching the brain think.
So, after looking at how it's built, what it does, and what happens when it breaks, we circle back to the biggest question of all.
Here's the big takeaway.
From planning what you're going to have for lunch to your deepest sense of who you are, this little slice of brain at the very front of your head, it's the architect. It builds the reality you live in and the personality you show to the world.
And that leaves us with one last pretty profound thought. If our very identity, our personality, our judgment, our ability to connect with other people, if all of that is so deeply tied to the physical health of this one part of our brain, what does that truly mean for who we are? It's a question neuroscience is really just beginning to scratch the surface of. Something to think about.